I work as a delivery driver for a small local pizza place. I had just turned 16 a couple of months earlier and decided to get a job so I could earn some money and start building a little work experience. This job sounded pretty easy, and it definitely beat standing behind a counter all day doing nothing. Most nights felt almost identical. I usually drove the same streets and delivered to the same houses for our regular customers. The only time things felt different was on weekends. That was when random people would order, and since our store delivered until 3 in the morning, I'd end up working really late. This happened on a Saturday night. There was a decent storm going on overhead, which in most jobs would probably mean a slow shift, but not with pizza delivery. People didn't want to leave their houses, so they were even more likely to order food instead. At least the tips were good. The store stayed busy until around 1 or 2 in the morning, and then it finally slowed down. For once, I actually had time to go inside and take a short break because there were no orders coming in. I didn't really have anyone to talk to, though. All the guys working there were much older, like in their mid-30s or 40s, except for a couple of college kids who weren't working that night. So when another order finally came through, they sent me out to take it. Even though the other delivery guy had been standing around chatting for over an hour, I didn't complain. I grabbed the order and headed out to my car like I always did. The address was on a street name I didn't recognize, and when I checked the GPS, it said the drive would take about 35 minutes. I figured I'd deliver it and then take the long way back, hoping it would eat up enough time that I wouldn't get sent out again. I started driving toward the address. At that hour, there were barely any cars on the road. Looking back, it sounds creepy, but at the time, I found it peaceful and relaxing. The neighborhood was pretty typical for that area. It was mostly wooded, with houses set far back from the road and long driveways leading up to them. It wasn't extremely remote for our town, but compared to where most people live, these houses probably seemed pretty isolated. I pulled into the driveway and parked near the end, right in front of the house. It was a large, older-looking place, and every light inside was off. As I was getting the pizza ready and preparing to step out of the car, I noticed a curtain shift upstairs. It looked like someone had just been watching me through the window. That kind of thing actually happens a lot during deliveries, so it usually doesn't bother me. This time, though, it felt different. I couldn't see anyone at all because the house was completely dark. I got out of the car anyway and walked toward the porch, and that's when I noticed something strange. There was another pizza box sitting right there by the door. It was from a different local pizza place, one I'd only heard about a couple of times. I hadn't seen any cars leaving as I pulled in, and there weren't any around the neighborhood, so it looked like it had been sitting there for a while. The box even looked damp, like the rain and humidity had already soaked into it. I stepped around the box and knocked on the front door. Since the order hadn't been prepaid, I needed to collect the money. As soon as I knocked, I heard something move inside the house, and then everything went silent. I waited about a minute and knocked again. Still nothing. I knew someone was home, so after another moment, I pulled out my phone and called a number listed on the order. A few seconds later, I heard a phone ringing inside the house. It sounded extremely close, like someone was standing right behind the door. Even then, nobody answered. I was completely confused. I knew I'd seen movement upstairs, and now I could clearly hear the phone ringing inside. Someone had to be there. A really uneasy feeling started creeping over me. I considered just setting my pizza down next to the other one and leaving when a voice suddenly spoke from behind the door. Doors broken. Bring it around to the side porch. It was a woman's voice, but it sounded rough and gravelly. I stepped back for a second, then walked around the side of the house. There was no cover on that side, so I had to walk through the rain with nothing protecting me or the pizza. The side door looked old and unused. If the front door was actually broken, you'd think this one would show signs of regular use. But it didn't. There were spiderwebs and dirt all over it. And the light above the door didn't even work. I stood there for about 35 seconds, already soaked from the rain. I didn't hear anything inside the house. No footsteps, no movement, nothing at all. I started scanning my surroundings, overwhelmed by the feeling that I was being watched. With no lights on, I could barely see anything around me. That sense of dread only grew stronger over the next half-minute, and I suddenly felt sure that something was very wrong. I dropped the pizza box and ran back to my car. I got in and drove off immediately. On the way back to the shop, I started thinking that the other pizza box on the porch might have belonged to the other delivery driver. Maybe he'd experienced something similar and knew to get out of there fast. If whatever they had planned didn't work with the first driver, they probably ordered again from a different place. They clearly didn't care about the food, since they left it sitting outside even though they were home. What I still can't figure out is what their plan actually was. The only explanation that makes sense to me is that the woman wasn't alone. Someone else might have been there, maybe hiding out in the trees, and leading me to the side of the house would have made sure no one saw what happened next. I still work at the same pizza place, but I've never experienced anything even close to that unsettling again. I really hope I never do.